A Nazi officer so cruel, even his own soldiers feared him. And when justice came, it was as brutal as his crimes. When Soviet soldiers entered Poland in 1944, they uncovered horrors beyond imagination. But behind that nightmare stood one man, Erich Muhsfeldt, the sadistic SS officer who burnt prisoners alive. Think you've heard every dark story from World War II? Think again. When Soviet troops stormed into Poland that summer of 1944, they expected gunfire and tanks waiting on the other side. Instead, they walked into hell itself, the Majdanek concentration camp. Gas chambers disguised as showers. Ovens are still warm, packed with ash and bone fragments. Piles of children's shoes stacked like mountains. The smell of burnt flesh hung thick in the air, a scent the soldiers would never forget. Even hardened men, soldiers who'd survived years of war, dropped their rifles and vomited. Majdanek wasn't just a battlefield, it was a factory of death. And this was the first time the world saw the Holocaust raw and undeniable. Erich Muhsfeldt was born in 1913 in Germany, the son of a working-class family. His early years showed no hint of the monster he'd become. He worked as a baker, married, and had children. A seemingly ordinary man in a turbulent era. But everything changed after Hitler's rise in 1933. Drawn by promises of power and belonging, he joined the SA, then the SS. By 1939, Muhsfeldt had become a loyal Nazi party member, trading his apron for a uniform and his humanity for authority. By 1940, Muhsfeldt had entered the SS Totenkopfverbände, the notorious Death's Head units. These weren't soldiers fighting on the front lines. Their mission was darker: to build, manage, and cleanse the Nazi concentration camps. Recruits were trained to treat prisoners not as humans, but as pests to be exterminated. Brutality wasn't punished, it was rewarded. Muhsfeldt adapted quickly, mastering cruelty like it was a craft. Each order, each punishment made him more valuable to his superiors. By embracing sadism as duty, he began his ascent through the SS ranks, one act of horror at a time. Auschwitz was where Erich Muhsfeldt's transformation into a full-fledged executioner was complete. Here he learned how mass killing could be turned into a process, efficient, silent, and horrifyingly organized. He supervised selections at the arrival ramps, sending the weak and sick straight to the others. The others were forced into slave labor, only to die of exhaustion later. Muhsfeldt's particular expertise was in managing crematorium operations, ensuring bodies disappeared as fast as they were killed. His ruthless efficiency drew attention from higher officers, and when Majdanek needed someone cold enough to handle its crematorium, Muhsfeldt was the perfect fit. By late 1941, Erich Muhsfeldt was in charge of crematorium operations at Majdanek, one of the deadliest Nazi camps. Every day, trainloads of prisoners arrived, and Muhsfeldt personally oversaw their deaths. He developed new methods to improve killing speed, dropping Zyklon B pellets through ceiling vents and sealing the doors tightly. The victims screamed, clawed, and collapsed within minutes. His deception was methodical. He told prisoners they were about to shower, then locked them in to die. Muhsfeldt's ovens burned day and night, consuming bodies at an industrial scale. When supplies ran low, he even ordered prisoners burnt alive, just to keep the furnaces going. In November 1943, Heinrich Himmler instructed the methodical killing of every last Jewish inmate in the Lublin district under Operation Harvest Festival. 2 terrible days saw the massacre unfold. Told they were for fortifications, some 43,000 men, women, and children were made to dig long ditches. Those trenches, however, turned into their burials. Firing machine guns into scared throngs, Muhsfeldt stood among the executioners. Loudspeakers drowned out the cries and bullets with upbeat music. Between shots, witnesses later remembered him laughing and drinking with other SS men and reloading with a smile as bodies piled high. The fields near Majdanek were drenched in blood by the end. The worst single-day massacre of Jews during the whole conflict. Those who survived Majdanek said Erich Muhsfeldt was a monster even among monsters. Always drunk, Always violent, he prowled the camp with a truncheon, eager for an excuse to kill. One man dared to smile. Muhsfeldt broke his jaw, then stomped him to death in front of others. Another prisoner coughed during roll call. Muhsfeldt rammed a shovel handle down his throat until he suffocated. His brutality wasn't random. It was performance. He bragged about how fast he could make someone die and loved burning people alive. Test how long they'd scream. He once tied a young Polish woman to a metal calf. He begged for mercy and rolled her straight into the crematorium flames. The smell of burning flesh became the camp's constant odor, his personal signature of terror and domination.
Had made their own escape. They took poison. Perhaps Hitler for once was right. The memory of this Reich may last for 1,000 years.
Eyewitnesses described one of Muhsfeldt's most horrifying acts, walking calmly into the crematorium holding 4 Jewish children, 2 in each hand. None was older than 8. Moments later, gunshots echoed inside. Then he emerged, casually adjusting his gloves, whistling a tune as though nothing had happened. To hide the sound of screams, guards revved truck engines outside, the rumbling masking murder. Those same trucks were later used to haul the tiny bodies to mass-burning pits in nearby forests. Muhsfeldt seemed to take a twisted pride in killing children, calling them wastes of gas. Even among SS officers, his cruelty toward the young stood out. Not just duty, but delight. He wasn't following orders anymore. He was enjoying the suffering. In 1944, as the Nazis began deporting hundreds of thousands of Hungarian Jews to Auschwitz-Birkenau, Muhsfeldt was transferred back to help manage the killing operations. Trains arrived daily, packed with families, most sent straight to the gas chambers. Muhsfeldt oversaw the crematoriums with mechanical cruelty, whipping prisoners and forcing women and children into furnaces alive when the chambers overflowed. When 80 prisoners were executed by firing squad in one afternoon, he casually complained of headaches, not from remorse, but from the constant sound of gunfire. During one selection, a 16-year-old girl somehow survived the gassing. Muhsfeldt dragged her out, raised his pistol, and shot her in the neck himself. Even amid mass extermination, his violence was always personal. After a minor injury on the Eastern Front, Muhsfeldt was reassigned to the Flossenburg concentration camp in 1945. The place was a nightmare of starvation, disease, and arbitrary killings. And he fit right in. Prisoners worked until they collapsed. Those who fell behind were executed on the spot. When the Allies closed in, Muhsfeldt helped organize death marches, forcing thousands to walk through snow and mud for miles without food or rest. Witnesses saw him casually shoot men who stumbled or begged for water. Yet even in defeat, Nazi command decorated him with the War Merit Cross for his dedication. For Muhsfeldt, cruelty wasn't just a habit, it was a career achievement. Erich Muhsfeldt was captured by Allied troops in May 1945 when Germany finally capitulated, attempting to fit in as a typical soldier, but survivors soon recognized him. Originally condemned to life in prison by a U.S. military tribunal for his crimes at Flossenburg, he was convicted of them. Still, Poland demanded his extradition, seeking justice for Auschwitz and Majdanek. In November 1947, his Krakow trial started. Dozens of survivors testified, their voices shaking as they remembered his laughter amid executions. One witness recalled him saying, "If one of you Poles wasn't a fool, we wouldn't have to burn you." There was no defense left. The court convicted him of crimes against humanity and sentenced him to death by hanging. The same rope he had given others would now finish him. On January 24, 1948, Erich Muhsfeldt was led to the gallows inside Montelupik prison in Krakow. Witnesses described him as pale and trembling, a stark contrast to the cold, confident man he had once been in the camps. There were no last words of remorse, no plea for forgiveness, only silence as the executioner carried out the sentence. Justice, though delayed, had found him. The man who once decided who would live and who would die now faced the same fate he had imposed on thousands. One of those described, Erich Muhsfeldt, barely 34, finally met the same fate he had previously reserved for others. This time, there was no mercy. Polish authorities decided not to give him a soldier's execution. Rather, they employed the same wall hooks he'd used to hang his victims at Majdanek. A rope encircling his neck was tied to the hook. The stool under him was kicked away. He gagged, twitching and panting for breath, his eyes wide in mute terror. He did not fall far. Witnesses claimed his body was still after many lengthy minutes. His remains were given to medical students for dissection after that. There was no grave, no prayers, and no grieving. His name came as a caution, the manifestation of what results from a man's goal becoming his wickedness. Erich Muhsfeldt's execution didn't undo the horror he unleashed, but it marked a rare moment of justice in a world still haunted by his crimes. Evil can thrive for a time, but it never escapes judgment. If this story hit you hard, like, share, and subscribe so history is never forgotten.